Welcome and thank you for attending Village Board meeting September 17th, 2013. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens? Here. Camerer?
Here.
Carbonaro?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Ranky?
Here.
Shipman?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at the appropriate point on the agenda. At this point, are there any items on the consent agenda that anybody would wish to remove?
Item F5, or do we need to?
You want to add it?
Do you want to add it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Are there any other items anybody would like to consider adding or removing from the consent agenda? We need to have a motion to add that, right?
Yes.
In that case, I'll entertain a motion to add item F or D. Is it F5?
F5.
So moved.
F5.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Shipman, seconded by Trustee Martin. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries. Consent agenda now includes item F5, Federal Emergency Management Agency Hazard Mitigation Grant Agreement. Would the clerk please call the roll on the consent agenda?
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the minutes. Is there any discussion? Entertain a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Trustee Shipman, seconded by Trustee Martin. The clerk please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens?
Abstain?
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the Treasurer's report. Jeff, do you have some information for us?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Starting with the municipal sales tax report, calendar year-to-date revenue, $1,178,036.05. It represents a $27,365.53 decrease, or 2.27% from the same time period last year. Moving on to the motor fuel tax allotment report, calendar year-to-date revenue, $667,390.08. It represents a $3,348.54 decrease, or 0.50% from the same time period last year. And the motor fuel tax fund currently has an unobligated balance of $2,449,267.29.
Thank you, Jeff. Next item on the agenda is the President's report. There is none this evening. Item 9 on the agenda is question and answer time. President and trustees. At this point, are there any questions? Anybody? Hearing none, we'll move on to the town hall portion of the meeting. At this portion of the meeting, we invite people to step up to the podium. Please give your name and your address. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anybody who would like to address the board at this time?
Hi. Evening, Kevin, Brian, trustees, staff, citizens. Lorna. My name is Jim Russell, 1098 Daniel. A lot of people in this town don't realize, except that they pay on their tax bill, a lot of their taxes go to support Hanover Township. And they don't know why, and sometimes they question it, but otherwise they just go about paying their taxes. This town is considered a rich town, so few people have to worry about what happens when they get poor. And if you go to the village, they're not going to do anything for you, but they might send you over to Hanover Township. People that know of Hanover Township can appreciate what amazing God's work they do. Our former mayor gave very quietly out of his own pocket to support the township, and a lot of the village members and officers and just appointees have cross-shared and supported functions between the village and the township because they do such great work for us.
Jim, I'm sorry. Can you get closer to the microphone?
Sure, I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
To my point, and sorry for being too soft. The work that is done specifically by the food pantry over in Hanover Park is some of the most amazing of any township around. They give more to support people that are in need and have a program called General Assistance. They give the most of anybody in the state. I know from very personal experience that they do some amazing work there. Our manager of our Jewel here, Pete, he regularly supports them. I know I have a lot of Bartlett Jewel food in my freezer thanks to that. The director of that particular facility is a lady named Mary Jo Imperato. Her and her husband Carl have done much work for Bartlett. Normally I sit with a lady named Shirley whose husband ran the Park District for many years and has a building named after him. So, in short, they are an integral part of Bartlett. I got a call from Mary Jo earlier today. She's going to be gone for about a week and a half. She suffered a personal loss. Her sister died today. So for those of you familiar with her and are inclined to say a prayer, I wish you would. And if not, just keep a moment in your mind for somebody that truly does do God's work. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Good evening. Bob Bucaro, Bartlett Volunteer Fire Association, 218 South Main. A couple weeks ago, we had our annual street dance. So on behalf of the board of directors of the association and all of our association members, we would like to thank the board for approving that event and certainly thank the staff, administration, particularly Paula, always very helpful, easy to work with, Chief Williams and Sergeant Perkellis, and the detail that evening or that day, as usual, were outstanding. And also Paul and all of the staff at Public Works who assisted us, we say thanks. It was a good event. I'm not aware of any significant problems that occurred. We feel it's a good event for Bartlett, a good event for downtown Bartlett, and we just thank you for helping us make it successful. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Beccaro.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and village trustees. My name is George Cozio, and I reside at 654 Hazelnut Court in the Walnut Hills subdivision of Bartlett. Almost 2 years ago, I volunteered to be a part of a group of citizens brought together by IDOT that would be called the Community Advisory Group, also known as the CAG. We met to discuss proposed improvements to the Route 2059 intersection. I assume that you know of the activity on the part of IDOT and are aware of where it is at today. In case you are not, I will give you a brief status report. The original plan called for 3 new ramps at the intersection. As of this date, only 1 ramp remains in the plan, from Illinois 59 northbound to Route 20 eastbound. A second right turn lane will be added to each of the ramps to allow 2 lanes of traffic to turn onto Illinois Route 59 northbound. A right turn lane from westbound 20 to northbound Red Oak Drive will be provided. This is an excellent safety item to the residents of Walnut Hills who have lived with a rather dangerous situation where they have had to make a turn into the subdivision from a lane of Route 20 traveling 45 miles an hour or more. Last but not least, there will be a major rework of the Illinois Route 2059 Red Oak Southwick Drive intersection. This will include a widening of the intersection by 14 feet. This would give those turning into and out of Walnut Hills and Southwick a place to stop and wait as they make the turn. IDOT is also proposing a U-turn lane 1 street to the north and 1 street to the south of the intersection. I am here tonight on behalf of the residents of Walnut Hills. Over the last 3 weeks, a petition was circulated throughout all of Walnut Hills. The petition states that the residents do not think that the reworked intersection is the best solution to the problem that has existed for almost 25 years and will only get worse over time as more vehicles use Route 59. The petition is asking IDOT to reconsider their current plan. IDOT is being asked to install a smart or on-demand light that would have minimum impact on Route 59 traffic flow because it would remain green for most of the time. The light would only change when a vehicle needs to make a turn into or out of Walnut Hills or Southwick subdivisions. The light would provide the greatest amount of safety to all entering or leaving these subdivisions. The light would provide a safe way for vehicles to cross high-speed 45 miles per hour or plus, northbound and southbound traffic. The traffic in the southbound lanes often blocks the intersection because of the volume of traffic and the fact that the light to the south can bring the traffic to a complete stop. Here is a recap of the petition results. There are 143 homes in Walnut Hills. 210 signatures are on the petition. 85%, 121 homes had one or more signatures on the petition. 9%, 14 homes, there was no answer, no one home. 5%, 7 homes are vacant. One home refused to sign the petition for the light. Grand total, 143 homes. We believe that a light is a safer solution and cheaper solution to the issues presented at the Illinois 59 Red Oak Southwick Drive intersection. The safety of a light continues forever as traffic volumes increase. I'm going to skip a part here where you can just read yourself. It's kind of a repeat of a number of items. We believe we have a strong showing of solidarity in our petition to IDOT to change the plans from an intersection rework to a smart on-demand light. We are hoping to receive support from the Village of Bartlett in our project. We would very much appreciate a statement to IDOT expressing your belief that a light is the best solution, the safest solution, and the least expensive solution. At this time, I would like to say thank you for listening to us tonight, the 143 homeowners of Walnut Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Posio.
Good evening. My name's Richard Lewis at 868 Braintree. Actually, myself and some other neighbors in the Walgreens neighborhood would like to discuss the proposal, and hopefully we could do that during committee. And so I bring that to you right now to see if that's possible or if you'd prefer us to address those concerns at this time.
I think committee would do best.
Okay, thank you.
We have this first item on the agenda in committee, so.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board at this time? Hearing none, we'll move along to the standing committee reports. First item on the standing committee reports is Planning and Zoning. Chairman Camerer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, we have no report, nothing to report.
Thank you, Trustee Camerer. Next standing committee report is Building Committee for Chairman Martin.
I have nothing on the agenda at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Martin. Next on the agenda is the Finance and Golf Committee under Chairman Renke.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report at this time.
Thank you, Chairman Renke. Next item on the agenda is under License and Ordinance Committee, Chairman Carbonaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. First 3 items are on the consent agenda. The first item is number 4, the anti-nepotism ordinance. Do you want to read this down?
Essentially, the board talked about it at committee at the last time, a proposed anti-nepotism ordinance. Was discussed in detail. Trustee Renke had come up with the draft. When we were here at the last meeting, Attorney Smith was here for executive session on some other matter, and they made a couple of minor proposed changes that are incorporated into the draft that's before you, given a question that was posed at the meeting. Sort of really the question is what happens if after we adopt this, a conflict arises because of status change. For example, let's say the police chief had a daughter that married a police officer. Well, that could create a potential conflict at that point, and so that's the only real substantive change. The rest are minor from what you saw, and in that instance, the village administrator, with the advice of council, would try to make some decision as to how to handle that situation. Other than that, it's precisely as was presented. So what you'd be looking for is I believe, a motion to approve of the ordinance, which is an ordinance amending the Bartlett Municipal Code to prohibit the village from hiring relatives of elected officials and officers. And Lorna can give you that ordinance number.
We had talked about
213-72.
Do you have a motion to?
We'd also talked about
Hasn't moved yet.
2/3 versus 3/4, and because the one number is divisible by 6, the other one isn't. I mean, if you just want to say supermajority, that's fine.
The other thing was
1-4.
some of the we had the whole provision with respect to exceptional employees, and their feeling, the labor attorney's feelings, was that that has the potential for morass of legal problems. So when you look at that, I'm trying to find that voting requirement. Give me 1 second.
1-13, 1-4, section D, I think.
What?
3/4 of the village board is what it says. There wasn't clear direction to change that to 3/4 or 2/3, so I left it if we had it.
I think the idea was that we would discuss it at this time, and if there's an amendment on the floor, we'll deal with that. But I think that we kind of deferred that conversation until everybody was here for the board to weigh in.
Well, we need to move to pass it, and then we can discuss it, right?
Right. So there should be a motion to approve and then open it for discussion.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved by Trustee Shipman, seconded by Trustee Ranky. Is there any discussion? I did have a question on this. Are there any affected under Section 3? There's Section 3. Are there any ordinances that this affects?
No.
That we have on? Okay. So that is none.
Exception 3?
Section 3, repeal of prior ordinances. I just wanted to make sure we weren't affecting any other ordinances that are already enacted.
We have no other ordinances.
Bottom of page 3.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on this? I know that Trustee Martin had a question about the percentage.
Yeah, it's 1-13, 1-4, section D. So if you want to say supermajority, that's 5 out of 6. If you want to say 2/3, that's fine too. But I mean, honestly, unless Lorna has someone that's going to come and work here, which is an elected official also, it's going to be divisible by 6, even if the president has someone, because one of us will be sitting out unless it's her. So for the most part, it should be divisible by 3.
Well, 3/4 of the board would be 5.
5 of the 6 votes. So it makes it more strict. It doesn't have to be an even number. It just makes it makes it more strict.
But I think, well, maybe I'm missing it. I think Greg's point is that one of us would have to abstain.
Right.
Right.
So
Leaves 5 votes.
right.
So how do you get 3/4 of 5?
That's
You'd have to have
4.
5.
4 is 80%.
You'd have to
Or
have
5.
unanimous
Okay.
of the remaining board. It
I'm fine with
requires
that.
unanimous.
So we're all on the same page.
It's designed to be difficult but not insurmountable.
I understand.
I think it's
So it's either, if it's 2/3, it requires 4. If it's 3/4, it requires 5, basically.
Okay.
and the way it's written right now, it's 3/4.
That's
Does
correct.
anybody
So
want
that-
to amend that?
we're good.
So we're leaving 3/4? Is that the point?
Unless someone wants to change it. you
I just
can.
needed a little explanation.
So
I just needed that little explanation.
I'll entertain a motion.
I did just want to perfectly clarify with you, Brian, and I think we did this at the last meeting, that a current employee, somebody years now, they got 15, 20 years on the water department or whatever else, their spouse decides to run for an elected office. Is there an impact to that employee?
grandfather?
Well, if their spouse runs for an elected office,
Somebody who's already employed at the village.
Then we're not hiring them.
We're not
They're
talking about
already
an
hired.
elected person who then I shouldn't say tries to bring on, an elected person whose relative then comes and applies for a job. I'm talking about somebody who's already here.
right?
Does this ordinance prohibit their family member, essentially, from running for an elected office?
It wouldn't prohibit it, but then you get to the situation that I spoke of, the example with the police chief, because that would be something that changed, and then we'd have to see what position they hold, and the village administrator would have to deal with that issue at that point.
But they're already hired. We're not hiring them.
I know. And
But in other words, they would be subject to the provisions of this.
Trustee Ranky drafted it that it would just be, new hires. But you have this issue, and it would, the way it's changed would affect that, because there could be a potential conflict, and then the village administrator would have to, with the advice of council, decide how to deal with that.
And that's section 3C. And as I originally drafted it, that provision was not in there, but Labor Council recommended it. And while I don't necessarily agree, I think that it makes the most sense to move the initiative forward.
3C under exceptions, you mean?
Right. Oh, prohibitions.
If they become related. If employees become related to an elected official or officer after employment, every effort will be made to identify a resolution to the conflict in coordination with the related individuals. If an agreed solution cannot be reached, the village administrator will implement such actions as may be necessary to resolve the conflict, including but not limited to involuntary separation from employment. That was at the suggestion of the labor attorneys. Provision could be stricken.
And I want to make it clear, I'm not trying to
No, that's a good
question. I'm trying to understand it, and I'm trying to make sure that
good point.
I think
we've gone to all bases.
It's a very valid point.
It's a very, good point. That was their suggestion. That's what gave rise to it. And my question, that's the only thing that changed, at that point. And this was their suggestion as to how to deal with that, because you still have a potential, if nepotism and the downside of that is what you're worried about, can affect morale, all those things that are in the recitals here, it's still an issue. And so that was how they suggested that issue be dealt with.
Okay. That's all I had.
Is there any other discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes?
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Ordinance 2013-73 is an ordinance amending the Bartlett Liquor Control Ordinance. It creates a Class F license and increases the number of Class F liquor licenses to 5. With that, I move the passage of Ordinance 2013-73, an ordinance amending Section 3-3-2-8, Class F of the Bartlett Liquor Control Ordinance.
Second.
Been moved by Trustee Carbonaro, seconded by Trustee Shipman. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes?
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Carbonaro. The next item on the agenda is under Police and Health Committee. Chairman Shipman.
Mayor, we have nothing under my committee tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Shipman. Next item on the agenda is under item F, Public Works Committee. Chairman Aaron.
Look at all the stuff I have. Okay. Our first agenda item is the 2013-14 tree program bids for the 1.5-inch tree purchase. And Mr. Kester has recommended that we buy these from St. Aubin Nursery in Cleveland, Illinois. So at this time, I would move the village board award the bid to provide 1.5-inch parkway trees to St. Aubin Nursery of Kirkland, Illinois.
Second.
It's moved by Trustee Aaron, seconded by Trustee Martin. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
I would like someone to explain to me that why we continue to put our legal notices in the Daily Herald. That is distributed basically in the city of Des Plaines, Village of Mount Prospect, and the city of Arlington Heights. I don't think they really care what's going on in Bartlett. And just for the record, I have nothing against those towns. I went to school in all three of them. I think we'd be better served if we were to use a facility that we have in town. If you put an ad in the Examiner, we have about 9 locations that go around the circumference of our village. Streamwood, Hanover Park, Carroll Stream, Wayne, West Chicago, South Elgin, and we have St. Charles and Campton Hills. I'm just wondering, hold on a second, I was just wondering if we actually did get a bid from one of the 3 tree removal services that we have in town. Did we get an opportunity to have a bid from them? We have a nursery in town also. Did we get a bid from them?
We send, first of all, I want to tell you that we send all of our bids on every project to the full chamber. So certainly all of our local people knew it. I think in terms of legal requirements relative to the advertising, we use the Herald, which does circulate within the Village of Bartlett, and use other publications where appropriate. Brian, I don't know if you want to talk about the circulation issue, but we do have some legal requirements that we need to make sure we use relative to the bids. But I think that in terms of notifying the full chamber on all of our bids, we certainly go directly to our own businesses.
The issue was looked at by the previous board, and both meet the legal requirements for publication. One of the difficulties with, and the consensus was with respect to bidding, the greater circulation, the better. So in terms of bids, not, just getting a local perspective is not as good as having a broader perspective. The problem sometimes with the Examiner is just a 1-day-a-week paper, and getting it in the time frames is difficult. That isn't to say it couldn't be both. That isn't to say it couldn't be the Examiner, but that was, the basis of the decision is with respect. I didn't bring my memo, but in that memo we went through the different circulations of the different papers, the costs and things as they looked at different where to place things. So, for instance, on public hearings for zoning, those are all going in the Examiner because more people here, your neighbors are more likely to read it there. But bidding was sent to the paper of the greatest circulation. My recollection was that when you publish in the Daily Herald, they've got different regions, and there's, like sort of the Roselle, Bloomingdale region, there's the Bartlett, Streamwood area, and you can pay for more localized or a broader circulation. And also their online advertising, they had quite a bit of hits and things on that. So that's up to the board's discretion, but that 1 day a week publication in terms of the time frames and getting it in the papers makes it a little more difficult. I'm not saying it can't be done, and that could be the direction.
With all due respect to you, Trustee Carbonero, you're in my committee right now. Okay? This is Public Works. So I would request that the President put this on a committee agenda sometime and we can talk about it further.
Yeah.
Okay?
Good point.
What's up? Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on this bid?
Yes, I have a question. It might be best directed towards Paul. Obviously, we're trying to diversify our reforestation, and it seems that we have quite a variety of trees. So the first question I have would be, don't we plant oaks, hickories, maples anymore? Or, why do we have, are these trees that are disease resistant? Do they just grow fast? Are they flowering trees? Are they going to make the city look better? I mean, why do we choose these trees, Paul?
Well, what we're trying to do is obviously trying to diversify the stock population. Maple trees right now, we have an overabundance of maple trees in town currently. If we would have another maple, we might have another maple species down the road, but right now we have an overabundance trying to get that percentage population down. The oak trees, if they're not grown right in this area, we have not had a very good success rate in Bartlett with oak trees, pin oak trees, the bur oaks, the white oaks. So this is what our arborist came up with. This is right now at this point for this section. We will look at other species in future years as we move forward. We try and change them around.
All right. And the second question, as I read through these bids and these proposals, was that I didn't seem to see much that reflected a guarantee. Is there such a thing? Do we have a year guarantee on this, or am I just missing it? Or
with the smaller trees, we elected not to go to a guarantee. Typically, when you go ask for a guarantee, it is with the planting. This portion, we are not having a contractor plant that. These will be planted in-house, and they're not going to guarantee, our experience is they're not going to guarantee a tree that is not planted or handled by them. That is what our past experience. The smaller trees, the inch-and-a-half trees here, do not have a guarantee. I do believe that if we would lose a small percentage of 10%, we would be further ahead than what the costs would be to include a guarantee with those. With the next item on the agenda, the 2.5 trees being planted by a contractor, those do have a full 1-year guarantee.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much.
Question. Is your arborist sexting the ginkgo trees? Because after 25 years, you do not want a female ginkgo tree on your block.
That is correct, and that's what the bid did specify.
Okay. People will be moving out of that side of Bartlett if they're planted.
Never heard of the ginkgo trees.
For the record, they smell like a dump after 20. They're really bad.
That's a good point, Mr. Kester. Are there any controls over, what number of these? So we could have everybody ordering the same one. We don't really have any control over that.
This year, what we're doing on this, both of the trees, we limited the quantity. Okay. We bid out a certain particular quantity. With the larger trees that the homeowners had an opportunity to buy the trees, we bid out 20 of each variety at this point. Once those were sold out, they were sold out. The homeowners had an opportunity to pick a different species or hold off until next year to see if they would like a different variety.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on this bid? The clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Our next agenda item is the 2013-14 tree program bids, tree supply and planting. And Mr. Kester recommends that the Village of Bartlett enter into an agreement with the, holy cow, Alana's Landscape Group. So at this time, I would move to approve Resolution 2013-74? 74, a resolution approving of an agreement between the Village of Bartlett and Alana's Landscape Group Incorporated for the tree supply and planting project.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Ahrens, seconded by Trustee Camerer. Is there any discussion on this bid?
Once again, I might have a discussion, or I have a question with regards to the name. Are we still calling it a 50-50 program? In effect, it's not really a 50-50 program anymore, is it?
We have two programs. We have the 50-50 that we traditionally have for the regular-sized trees, and then we have the smaller program that you just approved.
Well, I thought that the 50-50 was the $50 tree.
It is
We
now.
do refer to the purchase program as a 50/50. It used to be 50%. We have modified it for the next 3 years. It will be $50.
$50.
Just put a dollar sign in front of the 50.
It'll just be a purchase, homeowner participation purchase. We
Right.
refer to a 50/50.
Right, it's a little
Well, if somebody saw it and said it's 50/50 and you had a $200 tree, they're going to say, well, I got to pay $100. But in reality, if they have to pay $50, then they're going to say, well, it's not 50/50, it's a $50. I got to pay $50. See what I'm saying? That's odd.
In this format, we did put 50/50 in the memo, all of our advertisement. It was not referred to a 50/50. It was a purchase program.
I see. Okay, good.
Any other discussion? The clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes?
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Our next agenda item is the 2013 tree removal project bids. Mr. Kester has recommended, bids were received. Mr. Kester recommends TREASURE'S Incorporated for the tree removal program. I would move to approve Village Board Resolution 2013-77, a resolution approving of an agreement between the Village of Bartlett and TREASURE'S Incorporated for tree removals projects.
75 TL.
Trustee Martin, did you second?
No, it's 75.
Yeah.
I will second now, though.
Okay. Moved by Trustee Aaron, seconded by Trustee Martin. Is there any discussion on the tree removal project bids?
Yes, I do have another question, I suppose. My impression was that the village was going to do some of the tree removal and just leave some of the bigger ones to the contractors. Is that correct?
That is correct. This equals to about 675 out of the 1,000 trees that are dead, that are currently standing dead. The village is continuing to take down trees throughout every week that we are going forward. We are going through taking smaller trees down. We are taking some large ones down as we come across them in the areas not addressed by these 4 bid packages.
Well, if I understand this area 1 and so forth, there's a class A, B, C, and D, which apparently have diameter tree size. Is that what that is?
That is correct. From our inventory, when we did the inventory as of June 1st, we went through and made these areas in here. To go and just take down the smaller trees in these areas, this is only a small portion of the town. We are working on the areas of town where the smaller trees are, where we can do a lot bigger of an impact than just one tree on a block of a smaller species.
Well, I guess the question I have is then the contractor is doing all these size trees when they come in and take them out or not?
In these areas from our inventory, the contractor will take the trees that are earmarked in that area, yes. All the species, all the size of the trees, yes.
And apparently this is still a more cost-effective way of doing this than having the village come in and take down the smaller trees and leave the bigger trees to the contractor?
Yeah, for us to turn around and go through an area of that we have a contractor in there, we'd be going around. The trees are not on one particular street. They're just interspersed in these blocks here. So what we're doing is we're turning around and using our own crew where we have subdivision that are the small trees, making much more of a bigger impact and not wasting the time traveling from tree to tree.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
No.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Our next agenda item is the 2013 commuter parking lot resurfacing project bids. After bid opening, Mr. Kester has recommended that we go into an agreement with Chicagoland Paving Contractors Incorporated. So at this time, I would move to approve the village board approve resolution
76.
76. Thanks, Greg. 76 for the 2013 commuter parking lot resurfacing project in the amount of $70,900 to Chicagoland Paving Contractors of Lake Zurich, Illinois.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Aaron, seconded by Trustee Camerer. Is there any discussion on the paving contract? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes?
Carbonaro?
No.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes. Motion carries.
Our last agenda item, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, Hazard Mitigation Grant Agreement was approved through the consent agenda. And unless Trustee Camerer has something else to add,
I'm good with the
Can I just ask a brief question?
It's Trustee Shipman that has something.
I just want.
We do it under new business?
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
Yeah.
I'll do it under question and answer.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Aaron. Next item on the agenda is new business, which is before me a Tokyo Steakhouse Class F liquor license request. It's been reviewed. Proper information is intact, and if there's no questions, I intend to issue this license.
Shouldn't we ask them if they want gambling?
Pardon?
Just a thought.
Next item on the agenda is the under question and answer.
If I may. Thank you, Your Honor. I think this is worthy of a very, very brief discussion, if perhaps our administrator could talk about this, because I think this was part of the big coup that we made insofar as getting a lot of money from the federal government to help alleviate the flooding for a number of our residents. And I think it's worthy of at least 30 seconds of praising yourself and your staff.
Thank you. Certainly at the board's direction, we began to look at all of the flooding areas we had after September 13th, 2008. And as you know, the project that's going on 59 and Stearns represents a very big project related to that event, and we've had other projects and solutions all over town. This is the last really large one, and we've been working with FEMA since that time. This is the largest funded project that FEMA has had in Region 5, which is in the Midwest. So I am proud that we were able to finally secure these funds with the help of some of our other partners, including the Village of Streamwood, upon whose property Phase 2 will be located. This will benefit over 5,000 people in Bartlett and in the south end of Streamwood. It's a big project. We are securing land as a part of it. We hope to have it engineered and bid sometime next summer and really begin work on what I consider probably the last large project to come out of the response from those floods.
I just think it's great news when our village staff can squeeze just shy of $4 million out of the federal government turnip. So congratulations to you and staff. And I'm sorry to jump on your committee, but I did want to point that out.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important as well. And I believe there's going to be some type of a tip-off in September or October.
Yeah, I think we'll have a groundbreaking. We certainly want to include all of our representatives at the federal level who were supportive from the very beginning, Roscom and Tammy Duckworth and wrote letters and visited FEMA on our behalf repeatedly for many years. And we want to make sure we have them all here to do a big groundbreaking. And an important element of that, of course, is the residents who will benefit most from that, who will want to be here to see us complete, which we committed to them that we would fix.
Yeah. Specifically Hawthorne Woods area and
Hearthwood Farms,
yeah.
north on Prospect, and that whole area through that. In fact, yeah, some of this goes all the way up to Creston Taylor, where we've had a real flooding problem in that area too. So it's going to benefit a lot of people.
That's fantastic. And again, I think that it's important to point out that I asked staff what that amount compares to nationwide, and they made it a point to tell me that it's one of the largest grants in the United States for that of its kind.
Right.
So, very well done.
Bravo.
Is there any other questions and answers at this time?
Well, Mr. President, I do have one. What's the village staff's take on the improvements of Lake Street and 59? I mean, I heard from a lot of residents. What is our position on this?
Is this relative to IDOT's improvements along by
Red Oak.
We have attended, along with some of the residents of Walnut Hills, that improvement from the beginning. I think that during the open house that we have scheduled, there was some thought that the IDOT had changed their project to try to comply with some of the additional safety issues that the village and the residents had put together. I think, and I may be summarizing this too quickly, but I think it really fell down relative to the light. I don't think that IDOT, as George pointed out, supports the light. And if your question is, I think we have to take another look at that. It's been some time since we've talked about that, and I think given the information that we've been provided here tonight, we have to take another look at that. I will tell you, I think we have been pretty supportive and impressed with the changes that IDOT was prepared to make towards the end of a planning process to try to comply with what the residents in the village of Bartlett wished.
Yeah, I would greatly appreciate it if we could take a look at the issue of the light, especially in light of this information. It's obviously very important to these people. We ought to figure out if we want to further that initiative.
That's fair enough. We can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I know there have been multiple meetings behind the scenes about this, and unfortunately, as we're going to hear, I think here in committee, it's not a fixed situation as of yet, and we're working with a very difficult other entity. So, is there any other questions and answers at this time? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved by Trustee Aaron, seconded by Trustee Shipman. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes?
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
We're adjourned.